What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rick Rico. Welcome back to the Ozone. Thanks everyone for stopping by. Make sure you guys subscribe. Make sure you comment throughout the episode. Let us know any questions that you might have. I'm gonna roll it off to Dennis, and Dennis is gonna let y'all know who we have today.
Yep. Hey, what's up, Rick? Thanks again for the set, man. Seems like the last few episodes we've done, we started out with a prayer, and the vibe's been great. So if you don't mind, I'm just gonna bless the set real quick with a quick prayer.
I'm fine with that.
Dear Father, Lord, thank you so much for bringing us together here today, Father. We ask you to make your Holy Spirit present here in this place and this time to give us the words that you would like us, Father, to communicate in this episode. Father, thank you so much for this experience. Allow us to be present and authentic, Father, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right, man. Yes, Rick, we've been planning this one for a while, and I am so excited, honestly, man. I'm honored to have this guest here in the set today. I think we're gonna learn a lot. This guest has a lot to offer, and I actually had to write his intro because honestly, his track record is impressive, man. So our guest in the set is a veteran executive leader, consultant, and motivational speaker who knows how to turn adversity into advantage. He is the author of Eyes Wide Open: Learning How to Suffer, a raw, powerful testament that reframes hardship as the foundation for resilient leadership. Jason Sharp is his name, aka Pitbull. Yes. Recently, he returned from overseas deployment where he served as a Task Force Reaper commander with U.S. Central Command in support of the OIR, and mission sets. He's currently serving as a principal manager for the Columbia-class submarine replacement program and consults on other various national security efforts. Jason leads high-stakes environments while helping organizations build culture, endure through his firm, Sharp Leader. His keynotes don't just inspire; they ignite transformation. He's also the owner of Sherri's Executive Lounge, a space where he reflects, where reflection meets connection and leadership is celebrated in community. So, Jason, welcome to the set, man. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here. It's an honor to have you here, like I said, and I cannot wait to get started with your story, man. Your book had me hooked, honestly. You have some incredible testimonies, and I just don't know exactly where you like to get started. I don't know if you want to start back at the origins in Chicago or whatever you feel comfortable.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all having me here. Thank you so much. Very excited to be here and rap with y'all on this. We've got a lot of history to talk through. So, yeah, Chicago, people ask how I ended up in Kansas City, and I always have to talk about Chicago, right? Because that's where we come from.
Yeah.
As home base, that's where my family is.
She's got family there too.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. So we grew up in the city.
You Puerto Rican, right?
Yeah. My family's from Santurce, Puerto Rico. Yeah.
Okay. You're second generation?
Mm-hmm.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay. Boricua.
Yeah, Boricua, that's right. and we grew up in the city. We call it Deep Center or Crackton because it's a pretty rough area. Humboldt Park at that time, Logan Square in Chicago. So it's not it's not a suburb of Chicago. We're right there. We grew up rough, right? I mean, that's just what it was. We didn't have money. My father spent most of my young years in prison, and my mother was she was a crackhead.
Yeah.
So she spent a lot of time on the streets. And I love her to death, and may she rest in peace. but we lived rough, and we're talking, shelters. We're talking foster care. We're talking eating out of dumpsters.
Yeah.
That's the way we had to live to survive, and it was rough. And and Chicago public schools wasn't any better. you know. But I am a product of Chicago public schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The imagery in your book is amazing, man. Honestly, I got emotional reading it, especially as you're telling stories, you know, where you and your siblings and your mom are just basically waiting, you know, for some of these businesses to close to go and dig in dumpsters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Can you take us there a little bit and what that experience was like? How old were you? And just, you know, just
Yeah. I mean, it takes us all the way back. You know, as far back as I can remember, we were on the struggle bus, and you know, I think back. You know, people often ask me, "Gosh, you know, aren't you upset with how you know you've done so well for yourself, despite where you came from, or you have any animosity, you know, toward your parents?" And I always say, you know, who the hell am I to judge what set of circumstances they faced at that time? Yeah. And the fact of the matter is, we've survived, right? And she kept us alive, and you know, but there were many a nights like that. You know, we on Kimball and Irving Park. For those of you that know Chicago, there used to be this flower shop. I'm not sure if it's still there. There was a Blockbuster there, and
that's not there for sure.
No, the Blockbuster right there for sure. Yeah, but you know, there was this second floor. There was a second floor apartment that my mom ended up shacking with this guy. I never knew. You know, this guy had one arm, total druggie. And that's where we crashed out. And it was, you know, roach infested, you know, rat infested. It was just a shit show, you know. But there was never any food, you know. So my Aunt Sandy actually is the one who would come over. She would grab us. Wait, you know, there was a Dominic's right down Kimball, and we would go to the back of Dominic's. If you guys remember Dominic's Grocers out of Chicago, it might not be, I don't know if they had that here, but Dominic's was big in Chicago. And they would always shut down, and they would dump all the old deli stuff, you know, the stuff that they weren't going to be able to sell or sell to, you know, and it was packaged, and some of it was rotten, but most of it was good, and we would dumpster dive and feast. I mean, we would, you know, and it was nice. I mean, that was epic food. Yeah. Because if it wasn't that, we were lucky to have a box of cereal that we were able to use water in, but there wasn't a single box of cereal we poured that didn't come out with cockroaches, you know. So it was that, or you go dumpster diving, and that's how we survived.
What do you, when you tell these stories, what kind of feelings does it produce? Like when you think back of that experience?
You know, I'm certainly proud of the I am now, right? You know, I had developed very early on, you know, in my younger years, I was a very angry person. Yeah. And I think a lot of that had to do with the way we lived our lives and the fights that we had to fight in order to survive. Because, you know, what I ended up having was a very real lack of empathy for anyone and anything. I could give no F's about your problems.
Right.
You're okay. You can cuss here.
I don't know what you know. I mean, I could give zero fucks about your problems. Yeah. You know, and that was because you know I'm looking at you and I'm like, well, when was the last time you smelled rotting flesh or ate out of a dumpster? Right. And so, but in reality, that anger, it didn't allow me to develop any meaningful relationships over the course of my life, and that's really what I noticed. So now I look back and I realized that those circumstances gave me a great many tool sets to use to shape the way that I think. So I look back and despite the struggle, I'm very proud of my mom for doing everything she could to keep us alive, despite the circumstances we were in.
Yeah, I feel like us as foreigners, we have a similar trauma, or not trauma. I don't know if you can call that trauma, but like me and her talk about it a lot. Where, like, I feel like a lot of people in America complain about a lot of things that we didn't get the fortune to have back then. You know, kind of like water. You know, because in Mexico, we have limited monthly water. They gotta come refill your water. It ain't like you just get it all the time. You know what I mean? So I relate to you on that part. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, there was another story that really really shook me. That was that when your mom was arrested and you were left in charge of your siblings.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that story was, I mean, how old were you at the time?
So we would have been. Let me see. I was at Lemoyne, so sixth grade. So
Wow.
10 years old, about around 10.
And your siblings, how old were
My
they?
sister is a year older than me, and then Jesse's half, so he would have been 5. Yeah.
Yeah, and you basically had to take care of you and your siblings for what, about a month before
Yeah.
your mom turned out.
Yeah, and my sister, she's real gangster with it. Like she and I fed off of each other in terms of motivation and doing what needed to get done. And it was, but that's what it was, because you had a couple of options. You ended up in the system, or you survived on your own. And we slept on a lot of back porches, and we had some wonderful neighbors that understood. They understood the mission, right? They understood what they were like. Okay, there's just us here. What are we gonna do? Can we just crash here for the night, and we'll figure out what we're gonna do the next day?
Right.
And that
It was like a day to day, right?
it was day to day. Yeah, I mean, it was the first time that I ever really stole anything to survive.
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how struggle and pain has a way of making you present, where all you can think about is the present moment. You can't even really worry about the future or dwell on what happened. You are forced to just be in where you're at the time,
Yeah.
because of survival.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, and that's what it was. And my sister, she put in the work. We were standing outside of ATMs, asking for money. We were tracking down anybody we knew, just looking for a buck. Anything that, where I didn't have to steal something. Because, we knew. I mean, but things were different back then. You go to the gas station and you get caught stealing.
Yeah.
If they called the cops, cop comes and snatches you up and says, "Take your ass home." Like, now you steal a loaf of bread and your life's over.
Yeah.
Now they got the it's so back then it was different. But I still didn't want to get caught up, because I didn't want to be that guy, but I had to be that guy. And so my sister and I mean, we did everything we could from again, standing outside of ATMs, hustling. And we did a lot of stealing, unfortunately, but we didn't steal to hurt people. We stole to feed Jesse and survive.
Yeah. I want you to hold that thought. We're gonna pick up right there in that point of the story, and we're gonna continue. Before we do, I think it's only right that we light up a cigar. The first time we've done that in the episode.
First time.
Yeah.
And the reason we're doing that is because Jason actually has a cigar lounge down in the Westport area. It's called Sherri's Cigar Lounge, and we're going to talk a lot more about that here soon. But I think it's appropriate that we light one up.
Yes, sir.
This one that I have here is Eterna Madre. This is his own brand. So, yeah, we are going to do this.
So that's your brand?
Yeah.
You guys wrap them and everything?
Yeah. So that's a Nicaraguan Puro Habano, and it's a little bit spicier than a traditional Habano.
Okay.
We wanted something that was a little meatier and real pleasant, at the same time.
Okay. So what do I have here? I got a.
So you have.
I got the Toro Cabano.
Yeah. Shout out to Amin Imami. This is Imami Cigars. He's got, and that's the Toro Habano. That's a really amazing smoke. He's a local blender out of Lawrence, and he's carried in a few local shops around. Yeah.
Okay.
This one burns nice.
Yeah.
Production supervisor, will you put the camera on this one?
It is on you. What are you smoking there?
I'm actually smoking what he's smoking, the Eterna Madre as well. Yeah.
Is that one of your favorites?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a daily smoke for me.
Yeah. What does she have? You said she has the lightest one. It's a light smoke, you
So
said.
she has She has a traditional pigtail Habano that is as original as it gets with the Havana seed.
And she would be Liz, our production supervisor.
She's off camera.
Shout out Liz for helping us and just holding it down on this episode. We thank you so much for just being here and helping us in the background. You're awesome.
Oh, you might have to
don't let nobody tell you different.
Shake it.
Let me see. You might have to turn it up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
I'm having problems with the lighter.
Yeah, technical. I got another one here.
Technical issue. You got to turn it up a little bit. There you go.
All right. Yeah, but
so
yeah. No, as I was reading your book and listening to these stories, one of the things that like immediately came to mind was, man, he's even after everything he experienced, he is not over here badging on his parents, and actually you express yourself very well of them, and I'm thinking like, how do you arrive there? Because naturally somebody that's going through that experience would feel resentment, hate, probably just a hard time accepting their own reality of why me, why do I have to go through this shit, right?
Yeah. And, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, and I'll tell you what, I was resentful and angry for a very long time. And like I said, you asked me how I felt, and often it was anger. And I'll tell you this, I'm a 3-time graduate of anger management. I didn't graduate the 4th time. I smoke cigars now.
Yeah.
Right. But, the reality is over the course of my life and the experiences that I've been grateful and to experience have taught me some lessons. And what I realized is, you do have power. You own all the power, right? And for me, the last person to ruin my day was me. Mm-hmm. Nobody is allowed to ruin my day except me. And that includes, looking back and holding grudges and resentful feelings and things of that nature. Because I just don't feel like being in that mind space, right? I need to be in the mind space where I can focus on my children, focus on my family, focus on our businesses and grow. And that's exactly where I like to be in my headspace.
I understand that. But how do you begin to reframe the story?
Yeah. You have to start. Like I said, I went to anger management, and that was by nature because I've been arrested too many times, and they sent me to anger management. So from a healing perspective, right? And this is part of the book. The real premise of the book is that the human condition is suffering, right? We exist to suffer, and it's not until we're brought to our knees, right, until we're at the very precipice of destruction in some way that we find change. And so, you have to heal because we're born broken. I don't care who you are. Every single one of us are born in some kind of broken, and we spend the rest of our lives healing in some way. Mm-hmm. And you have to own that, though. And so from a healing perspective, nothing was working. The most cathartic experience I ever had, and to this day, was writing that book. I needed to, and I had a lot of mentors, some really amazing mentors in my life that helped shape my mindset and shape my moral compass. And they've given me that guidance to write. And that experience alone is what helped me truly deepen the understanding of circumstances. And again, I look back at those circumstances and I found all these old letters my mom wrote, and I found all kinds of stuff, from the family. And she was trying to put the work in, right? She wasn't, not trying. But this is Chicago streets. It's an uphill battle. You're pushing a boulder up the hill in the mud, and it's raining, right? And you'll be lucky to not get crushed by it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, from a reframing perspective, it starts with owning your own healing. You have to find peace inside, and you can't do that until you heal those wounds. And that doesn't mean you have to necessarily forgive everybody and all that, but you do have to start to take ownership of the power that exists in your mind that really is the ownership of your outcomes, and that is you. That's it. And until you accept that and then take some ownership to start healing, it's never going to change.
Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Somebody that's born under those circumstances and has those kind of experiences has all the excuses to basically end up in the streets, homeless, a drug addict. You know, how did you manage to not end up that way?
Yeah. So you said that's perfect. Born into those circumstances. And I often ask people, and I try to help. I try to understand what people think. Like, what's the difference between suffering and adversity? What do you think the difference is?
I don't know.
You don't want to take a stab at that one?
I don't know if I got one. The difference between suffering and adversity. Adversity is something that happens to you. Suffering is something that you think is happening.
Yeah, I mean,
I think if I have to say, I think that suffering is in the mind.
That's what I get.
Where it's just you torment yourself more than you need to, and adversity are the circumstances.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's a good explanation. And I'll offer up mine.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there is, I think, a very unique difference between suffering and adversity. Adversity, you get to pull your bootstraps up. You get to overcome and motivate yourself and find obstacles to overcome and grow, and people can help you and so forth. Suffering, you have no choice but to endure. It doesn't end. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just stop. It is a cycle that is unfolding on its own timeline. Mm-hmm. And you really have no choice but to endure. Mm-hmm. And that pain is real, and that suffering is what shapes your soul, especially in a shared environment, because shared suffering builds the strongest bonds. It's my siblings.
Wow.
So those
and the strongest bonds too, probably.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So and this is where we get into the book later. I mean, how do you develop this, right? And there's a lot of conversation on a concept called imposed stress, and that's something we can talk about later. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But that is the reality, and I take it back to the human condition is suffering. Mm-hmm. We are broken, and we need to heal, but no one's going to do that for you. You have to start with yourself and find that path that's going to help you heal, so that you can reshape your circumstances. It's not going to happen unless you actually dig down, identify, what is the pain that is causing your everyday, mind to wander and not focus on the here and now and the forward.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. What comes to mind right now, I was looking at this documentary on Arnold, and him and his brother had a pretty tough upbringing. His brother ended up committing suicide, and he said the same thing that led my brother to suicide is the very thing that made me the strong man that I am. And it's just so wild, because you are, I feel like, the exception of what could be, and that's why it's so important to highlight your story so that people can see that it's doable. Because I feel like there's people that may be born into those circumstances and think that that is the only reality that they can ever live.
Absolutely.
Have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think that they have this mental defeat and that there is no hope. But I think that what you share is so critical, because it is that the suffering that leads you to the key to that door to exit, and come out on the other side, mm-hmm. right? How do you leverage that pain?
Yeah, exactly. But the way I frame it now is that life is full of sliding door events, And I look back when I was younger in Chicago, and I was unafraid to jump through those sliding doors, and that's because I really did want to see what was outside the proverbial wall that I was living in. Right, I wanted to see beyond, and I was fortunate. Right, I was fortunate. I'm not sure if you've gotten to the part in the book about the woman who became my surrogate mother. Her name is Dr. Yael Sedone.
I haven't gotten there yet.
And she and you'll get there, and it gets wild.
Yeah.
I listened, right? I listened, and by that I mean, take time to slow down. And if somebody is telling you something, right, they're wasting some breath on you,
Yeah.
then you should probably at least listen. And
Because they might be speaking life into you.
Oh, absolutely. And so I did. And this woman, she saved my life. She is the reason, right? So, we talk about, I've reshaped my mindset and things of that nature. But the fact of the matter is, shoulders were there, and those were her shoulders. And that's because, I would have been in sixth grade, going into seventh grade. So right around after that time, my mom got popped by the cops, and then it's a real long story, but basically, while my father was in prison, he had a friend named Charles, who would help take care of us when he could, and Charles was married to Yael. Right, that's how that connection was. And I remember getting in touch with Charles when I was on the struggle bus, and my mom was in the joint, and I couldn't get a hold of anybody else. And he would come over, and he'd say, "Hey, here's $20, go feed everybody." Well, as things got bad, like seventh grade, I started to get arrested, not because I was doing stupid stuff, but it's because Chicago public schools.
Yeah.
I've been this tall and 225 pounds since I was in sixth grade. I've been big. And the rules in the Chicago public schools was you take down the biggest kid and nobody messes with you. So I was a target every day. And I was always getting into fights, and I was always getting arrested. District 023 lockup. Spent a lot of time there. And things were just getting progressively worse. And you'll see some of that in the book. All the arrest reports, and, when I got expelled from school and all that fun stuff. So eventually Yael took me in, and I started, and I say, she took me under her wing, right? Because, Charles came to me and said, "Look, maybe we can do something for you, and you can work under the table, and Yael can give you some cash."
Yeah.
Cool. So we worked that out, and I end up over at her clinic, and I end up, spending the whole summer there and doing all kinds of, every kind of odd job there is, sweeping and mopping the floors to painting the back room and whatever the case might be. But then, she became, over a period of time, she became my surrogate mother, and she took over, and is the reason, right? She's the force behind all the efforts that I was able to take because of who she is, and she is the woman that saved my life.
Wow.
Prior to meeting her, did you ever receive any type of support like she did from your parents?
No.
At all?
Well, of course. I mean, my I don't know I guess how to necessarily answer your question. I think from a support perspective, do you mean like loving, happy days? Effort was there. Yeah. Right? I mean, it was there. When times were great, my mom would make the best, best chicken and rice. Right. When times were great, we had a Christmas tree. But the kitchen would burn down, or, legit, that's just how it was. But times were bad. And so, effort was there, certainly. Yeah. But more often than not, right, we get stuck on the terrible times and the hard times, and that tends to be the story.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You become what you think about the most.
Yeah.
You know, it's just the thoughts that you process that create your reality. But it's like that reframing. It's not so much what happened to you, but what you tell yourself about.
Yeah.
The story you tell yourself about what happened to you that
Yeah.
ends up reshaping everything, your life. And so it's so wild, man. I can't wait to continue to, read and get it more into the book. But I know that you're big on leadership.
Yeah.
That is one of your actually one of your companies too, right? Sharp Leader.
Yeah, so Sharp Leader is the parent company for all the other things that we're doing, but it's also the main consulting platform.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And I use that platform to publish the book, for example. I'm an executive coach for the MBA students at UMKC here in Kansas City. And then any other consulting contracts that I end up is all funneled through Sharp Leader as the platform. But then Sharp Leader owns, for example, it owns the real estate we have. It owns the Cigar and Jazz Lounge and so forth.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us about that. Tell us about your leadership style. What kind of leadership style? How would you define your leadership style?
Yeah, I mean, my leadership philosophy is really, it's based on a few simple tenets, but and I'll explain it to you. I think that all leaders, you've made a choice to be a leader, and maybe you necessarily didn't know that out the gate, but if you've decided at some point to say yes, and you're leading other people, or you're leading teams or organizations, or a group such as this, right? Then you have no choice in one single matter, and that is rope. And I use that analogy. When leaders reach the end of their rope, you have no choice but to make more rope. You have no choice. You don't get to quit.
Yeah.
Right. You don't get to quit. You have to find solutions.
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the most important things, I think, in terms of leadership. But leaders need vision, right? You have to know where you're going, identify that, who's coming with you, and why. But in terms of people, I think the most important aspect of leadership is failure. And by that, I mean, how do you let your people fail without becoming a failure? Because that is the most important growth opportunity there.
Right.
That's
right.
Yeah, I never heard that before, but that's
right. Because you have to let your people fail and you have to figure out how not to let them become a failure. And finally, the last, most important aspect for me is that we're never going to know as much as the people on the ground, the boots on the ground. And if you don't keep your ear to the ground and you're not listening and talking to your people, you're never gonna know what actually is happening. And that's because there is a very huge difference, culture in theory versus culture in action. This is what we say we do. These are our company values. But then what's actually happening on the ground, very different.
right.
Yeah.
The disconnect.
There's a disconnect. And so, and if you're not paying attention, then that culture falls apart very quickly.
Right.
And for me personally, I have very wide left and right limits in my leadership style. I like to give my people a purpose and direction. They understand the mission set. They understand what we're doing at the lounge or wherever we're coaching or talking, and then I let them go and do and figure out, right, solve the problem, as long as they're within the boundaries, right, the left and right limits.
Yeah.
But mine are wide.
Do you feel like your leadership has been in some way, shape, or form, like formed by your experience in the military?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Which started with a gentleman by the name of Brian Galarza. I'm not sure if you've gotten to him yet in the book. So it was Yael who introduced me to Brian Galarza, and he is the one that really shaped, who I am as a man. Right, Yael grounded me in terms of my initial mindset and my moral compass, and G, we call him affectionately, is the one who helped me point that in the right direction. And he's the one that really motivated me, not by forcing me to in any way, but to join the military. And it was because of him that I ended up down that path. But absolutely, I was enlisted at first, and I realized, basically there's two kinds of soldiers, or Marines or air. There's two kinds in the military. You've got people that shovel the shit and people that plan to shovel the shit. And so, I shoveled the shit for a few years, 6 years as enlisted, and then I became an officer because, to your previous points, I as I grew up and as I shaped my mindset, I realized that I can own outcomes, and I should take action, and I should do things to effect change and so forth.
So you got your education and then applied for to commission?
Yeah, I went to Officer Candidate School, and then shortly after that I went to Ranger School, class 5-12. I think you'll get to that part in the book soon as well. And that really helped concrete my mindset. That really helped solidify and put really lock it in forever. Like it's not changing, and that's just because the Ranger School experience is about suffering. It's about imposed stress. It's about taking your body and your mind to limits that you don't normally push yourself to, and so then you end up setting a whole new bar for performance.
You start seeing what's possible.
Absolutely,
right? It's almost like you realize that you are your own limit, and that that the more you push yourself, the more you humans, man, it's something beautiful about being a human. Obviously we make a lot of mistakes and stuff, but we're also very adaptable. If you allow yourself to be, you're exposed to something long enough, it becomes the norm, and then all of a sudden the bar is just a little higher, and so it goes back to your point, is how do you create these conditions so that you can continue to gradually move that bar and transform yourself in the process, right?
Absolutely. And I'll talk about that, because I think that is probably the most important aspect if you're looking to make some changes. To your point, creating those conditions, imposing stress. But and it really comes down to our comfort zones, probably comfort and risk, right? I think, come on, everybody loves to live in their comfort zone. Who doesn't, right? That's just natural. Yeah. But you're really not going to grow unless you leave your comfort zone. So, well, how do you do that? How do you from a practical standpoint, right? You can do something as basic as identifying what you really hate doing or what you're fearful of, and then go and do that. Or you can, why I'd like to describe it is just do different. Just do something different. You have to go and do different, because different equals opportunity.
Yeah, I think sometimes people are like in a career space. You know what I mean? Like, there was a point in my life where I had to take a job I knew I didn't know how to do.
Yeah.
But I knew that I had it in me to just fight through it. And that's all I had to do was stick through and learn as I go. Because in my field, they kind of just throw you out to the wolves, and who makes it stays, who doesn't. You know what I mean? But
sink or swim type of deal.
Sink or swim, type of deal. And I think a lot of people end up being stuck in their careers because they don't take that risk. They don't take that leap, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
They get comfortable as the comfort zone that you're talking
because
about.
we are, naturally we live in a natural risk homeostasis, we call it.
Yeah.
And that's because we're risk averse. We get comfortable. We love our W-2 paychecks, right? We enjoy all that, right? Yeah. It's just it's too easy, But risk, and I try to tell people, it's like if you're driving down, what's your favorite sports car? If it was your dream car today, like what would you be driving?
A Hellcat.
All right, so Hellcat, right? So on a nice sunny 70 degree day, no cars on the road.
Yeah.
70-degree day, 0 cars, no cherries and berries out there. What would you not open it up? You'd probably open it up, right?
Yeah.
You'd rip it. But that same day, but it was 40 degrees, raining, and the roads were packed. You're probably not going to rip it up as much, right? You're going to take it back, and that's your natural risk homeostasis.
Yeah.
Right. Where you automatically adjust to remain comfortable, right? And that's what we have to get away from. We have to find ways, create opportunities to take risks and increase your risk posture.
So you think that risk creates those conditions that you were speaking about?
Yeah. Absolutely. You have to take risks, major risks, if you want to do anything that's significantly important or that's going to significantly change your circumstances
and rock you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah,
I believe that, because you ever notice like sometimes people have less and do more.
Yeah,
because they take more risks. You know what I mean? That's something that I've always noticed with like music. I've always noticed that like artists with the least, that are not as talented as artists that are talented, or get further simply because their mission was more so the risk than the art. They're like, I need to be there. Let's create this so we could get there. But the guy that's creating the art, it's like, no, I'm focused on this.
Right.
They're not focused on the risk. You know what I'm saying?
I think you're making a very, very important point there, because I think you're talking about like natural talent, right? And it's kind of like this nature versus nurture, right?
Yeah.
It's like talent don't mean shit if you're not challenging yourself, right? I mean, that's the difference. There's plenty of people that are naturally gifted but don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And there's people that are less gifted and they end up, really going the distance in whatever, industry or career field.
They're gifted because they're risk takers.
Yeah.
That's their gift.
Yeah, I think and I tell people a lot about, especially school, when it comes to school and kids and even adults in college and whatnot, you can get all A's and still flunk life.
Yeah.
And
true.
And the reality is you need a specific skill set, I think, that allows you to engage with people and identify those opportunities. And you do that through what are called executive function skills. And there's a serious gap in those non-cognitive skills today among young people and even adults that just weren't able to develop that skill set.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. You have some pretty useful tools in the book that I really I'm like, okay, this is great. Things like gut check. Things like extreme ownership, resilience, and can you walk us through some of those?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the gut check is pretty simple, but it's necessary. And the problem is we don't do it, as often as we should.
Yeah.
What is that? Explain.
So yeah, the gut, it's where you actually tell yourself the truth about what's happening in your life, right? Admit, is this where I want to be? Is this what I should be doing right now? And if I'm not where I want to be, am I blaming everybody else, or is it me if I look in the mirror? Right? What am I doing? Right. And then the second part of that is you need to surround yourself with people that are going to give you no bullshit answers, and they're going to tell you if you're fucked up or not.
Yeah.
And those are your friends, right? Those are people that really care about you, that are going to say, "Nah, man. No, you're fucked up."
Yeah.
And you need to have those people in your life, and you need to listen to them. You have to, and that gut check is so important, right? Because if you don't do that check-in regularly, right? You some folks, they just feel like everything is either not their fault or everything is great, and they get
like the shit don't stink.
But not just their shit don't stink, but it smells good, and yeah. So you got to have that gut check. It really helps you, move in that direction of ownership, right?
Yeah, and that extreme ownership
She's
that
always, I can feel her, right?
Yeah.
yeah, but it's this principle of extreme ownership I heard before from Jocko Willink. Is that
Yeah,
his
yeah,
name?
yeah.
But come to find out, like it actually comes from Bruce Lee. You said?
Yeah, so Bruce Lee is where I picked it up early on because he was one of my favorite, favorite persons, human beings growing up was, anything I could, and the reason for that is because one of my uncles, Santos, he was huge into martial arts and weaponry and things like that. And he actually, there's pictures of him still in my grandmother's house of him training with Bruce Lee.
Wow.
And that really, that really left an impression.
Mm-hmm.
And, watching his films, right? I mean, they're all classic. And I mean, nowadays,
he'll be talked forever.
Yeah. So, but, he wrote, he developed his martial arts, Jeet Kune Do, right? And he's written, many books. But, he is the foundation for the philosophy of circumstance, I think, that exists as I like to use it. And what he says is, his quote is, "To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities." But when you continue down the book, I want to make sure I say this right. I believe he says it, I've thought of myself as a man buffeted by circumstances, outside circumstances, right? But now I realize that I am the person who commands the feeling of the mind from which circumstances grow, right? When you command the mind, you create circumstances. And that's ownership, right? Because, if you're looking at the world and you think that all of these outside circumstances are dictating the outcome of your life, then you can flip that and realize that it really is your mind, right, that commands and creates opportunities and circumstances. You just have to do it and surround yourself by people that will help you do it. And you need to develop the tool sets that will get you there, right? And that's okay, right? That takes some training and that takes some mentorship and so forth.
Yeah. Resilience is one of those things that you spoke about, and but that's something that is hard to, I guess, develop. You develop it obviously through life circumstances. Life itself will orchestrate scenarios where you're almost forced to. But what else can we do to I guess have those tools to be able to develop resilience?
Yeah. So resilience, that's it's a hard one for people to describe, right? Like how do you develop resilience? And I like to take it back to a conversation about passions, right? What we're passionate about. So we'll start with that, right? So, what are you passionate about?
This podcast.
All right, outstanding.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about?
I'm passionate about just the spiritual pursuit of finding the purpose that I'm designed to live here in this life.
Yeah. So I think passions are different from what makes our heart sing. And that's my personal philosophy. I think that, I'm passionate about all kinds of stuff. I'm passionate about, I'm passionate about cigars. I'm passionate about motorcycles. I'm passionate about rum. I love a good rum.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But what makes my heart sing, right? That's watching my children grow right in front of me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What makes my heart sing is seeing other people grow. Right. Watching them change and develop
And having an impact on their life.
Yeah. Right. Those are the kinds of things that make my heart sing. And so then the reason that's important when it comes to resilience is because when you really figure out what makes your heart sing, and it gives you goosebumps every time you think about it.
Yeah.
Right. That gives you a reason to bounce back and stay the course
And push through the
and
adversity.
push.
and
Right.
become the buffalo, right?
Yep. Yeah, the buffalo. But
yeah.
you have to be intentional about it. You have to be intentional, and you have to recognize it. You have to recognize when these things are happening, and connect the dots. Right. Like, this is why I'm doing this, and this is because it makes my heart sing, and so I will suffer the blows, and I will find a path out. And that's why I come back to passions and then what makes your heart sing, because you find that, you pinpoint that, and that helps you develop a reason to bounce back when the blows come, when adversity sets in, right? Because, right, again, adversity, you can pull your bootstraps up, you can find ways to overcome, and so that's a way. That's how I like to look at it when it comes to resilience.
That's awesome. Yeah, there is this sort of metaphor you use there in the book about cows and buffaloes. If you haven't read the book, can you explain that to people?
I mean, it's nature's finest example. And basically, there's this massive thunderstorm coming across the plains, and cows will run away from the storm, and eventually the storm catches up with them, and then they still suffer the most pain and negative effect of that storm, because not only did the storm catch up with them, now they're extremely tired, and now they're in the storm for a much longer period of time, whereas buffalo, they'll run right into the storm, face what they have to face, and come out on the other side, greener pastures, and they're experiencing this negative, this massive storm for much less period of time than those that are running from it.
Yeah. But I think it's that it's same concept, that principle that builds that resilience, right? Is this like running into the storm mentality where you're not running away from circumstances, or is running towards it and facing it and going through it.
That's right.
I think you said something like whenever you take a blow to the face, right? There was a few examples there that really made it. It's almost like, or like even just me thinking like, staring into the light, right? Or you get dazed and you're getting ready to pass out, or whatever the case may be, is those moments where like you're rocked, but you're just still going through it, and being present for it, like making yourself present for it.
And you know what pisses me off? Everywhere I go, I see these signs that say, close your eyes and breathe.
Yeah.
Fuck that. Right? Open your eyes and make a decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. You like, okay, I got it. Close your eyes and breathe. That means you're managing your stress. Well, if you open your eyes and make a decision, you're owning your stress, and now you're actually going to do something. It might not be successful, but you're doing something, and then you pivot. And that's probably the end cap of facing that storm, right? You are choosing to open your eyes, take the blows, and make decisions about the necessary outcomes.
Something I wanted to really ask you about was because a lot of what you speak about is you basically being a captain of your ship, right? Of taking control and of your mind and of your circumstances. But reading through your story and looking at it, and some of what you're sharing here that I wasn't familiar with, seems like there was a lot of divine intervention along the way, where certain people that were introduced to your life that pointed you in a certain direction at the time.
Oh yeah.
And so that leads me to ask you about your faith, and how does that has played a role in the person that you become and your leadership style and everything that you do.
Yeah. So it's a twofold. Absolutely, there are a great number of people in my life that have been there for me, that have been the shoulder for me to stand on. And like I said before, life is full of sliding door events, and that might be the divine intervention. Because you have to, you're owning your outcome. Yes, you're making decisions, right? You're opening your eyes and making decisions, but you also have to trust the timeline of your life, right? You have to take a look at where I'm at, and you can't necessarily force things into existence, right? But you can do things for yourself and for your family that might put you in a better circumstance. But you have to listen, right? You have to trust the timeline of your life, and you have to identify those sliding doors. And like I said, I've met so many great people, and I've had so many great mentors. I became really good at figuring out, which people were adding value to my life, and which ones weren't. And I became even better at getting rid of the ones that weren't adding any value, which is an absolute critical thing that people need to be doing every single day. And I would listen, and that was so helpful, right, for me, because I was looking for sliding doors. I became unafraid to jump through them, and then I'm listening to those people around me. And when you talk about divine intervention, like if we're not listening deep down, right, that is the intervention. We're just not doing anything about it. Right? You have to be intentional about identifying that, and making a decision to do something about it. And that's how you grow. That's how you move forward.
Yeah, that's the path forward,
Yeah.
huh? Well, as one of the examples that come to mind, this concept of divine intervention, I feel like was that moment where you met Johnny Blue Hands.
Oh yeah, Johnny Blue Hands.
Man, dude, you gotta tell us about Johnny Blue Hands, bro.
Yeah. So
Were his hands really blue?
All right, we're gonna get into it. Yeah, we're gonna get into it. So I love riding the train. This is where I'll start. And I almost, I got to go to Chicago next week. Milwaukee technically, and I almost bought a train ticket, but it just wasn't going to get me there in time. I think trains. I think people should ride. More people should ride more trains, and I wish that the train system in the United States was a whole lot better. But we'll get there. That's a whole other topic. The thing about trains, there are three kinds of people that ride the train. All right, there are people that enjoy it. People like me. Half that book was written on the train. Right, you're riding through America's backyard.
Yeah.
Right, and you're meeting some of the most interesting people. Why is that? Right, because you got people like me that like to ride the train. You have people that are literally moving across the country. You can put 36 boxes in a train car.
Yeah.
And some trains you can take your car on and cross the country with it. And then the third kind of person that rides the train is everybody on the no-fly list. Okay, they got to get around the country still. And these are from interesting people because they did something, said something stupid, whatever the case might be, and now they can't get on a plane anymore. TSA won't let them.
Right.
So, the train experience, you meet some absolutely interesting people. And the fact is that if you listen and you engage in conversation, because you're all going in the same direction and nobody can go anywhere because you're on a freaking train.
Yeah.
So I rode the train a lot. And when I moved to Kansas City, I literally moved here on a train from Chicago. And it was a $63 ticket.
Wow.
Yeah.
How long does it take?
It's the same. So it takes 8 hours to drive to Chicago. It takes 8 hours on the train. Beautiful. And they have a really nice viewing car, and you can sit and work and so forth. I highly recommend it, especially if you've got, children, 5, 6, 7, 8, they can actually enjoy the train. It's a lot of fun. There's a restaurant and all that stuff. So I get on this train and I'm moving to Kansas City because I needed to do something different. I was lost for a long time, and this is the reason I moved to Kansas City, which we can kind of get into that as well. But when you get on the train, you can help people or you can just sit down. There's a lot of elderly, there's a lot of folks, right? So I'm always, grabbing suitcases and just trying to help people find their way because I've ridden the train so often. I know exactly where to go. I'm friends with the train master. I'm friends with the conductor. And, I just try to help people, get seated. So you sit down to your coach class seat and they're going to come around and scan your tickets. And I'm sitting down and then this massive, this guy's huge. Massive. He had to be, I don't know, 6'8", just girthy, well-dressed, old black guy. He had to be pushing 80, and he sits down and he says, "Hello, I'm Johnny Blue Hands," and I was like, all right. I'm like, man, this guy's gonna talk, right? Like, I wanted to take a nap. I wanted to take a nap real quick and then go get to work. And we just got to talking, and he's got his zoot suit on. He's looking clean, and he just started to tell me his life story. And he said, "My name's Johnny Blue." And I said, "So where do you get your name from?" He said, "Well, that's what I do. I play pool." And he left the Delta, Mississippi when he was 13, and he rides trains across the United States, and he plays pool in every bar in America. And the blue chalk, right, 65, 70 years of blue chalk on the hands gives him that faint blue hint on his hands. And we talked and we talked and we talked, and he gets up to leave, and we probably talked for 6 hours.
Wow.
And he turns around and he says, Jason, he said, you've really learned to suffer. And that's where the name of the book came from. And that's where the motivation, right, for me to get serious and put pen to pad and use my train time to be productive. Mm-hmm. It's real nice and comfortable, get on the train and throw on a Netflix movie. But I didn't do that. And I probably have logged over 200-300 hours of train time, which is where most of this book was written, like I said. Yeah. And it's because, Johnny, coming out of the Delta, Mississippi, which is described as the most southern place on earth, right? This is where suffering and salvation became music. They call it the blues, right? Mm. And according to Johnny, the most southern place on earth is a man's soul. And his descriptions of suffering and the life that he led when he left the Delta, Mississippi, it just helped me, again, find those goosebumps that I needed, right? Mm-hmm. To really get to work and be serious and own this book.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great read. I've really been enjoying it. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, what legacy are you looking to leave behind with your book, with your business, and just leadership? Because you have a lot going on. You do a lot.
Yeah, I'll start off, from a legacy perspective. We are generationally different. My children and my immediate family, my wife and my brother and sister. We've broke the mold, right? We weren't supposed to be where we are right now, and so, every time I look at my son and I ask him to make smart decisions, it's because you carry your name, right? I think that, I think we really truly only own two things in this world, and we really only control, and that's our name. By that I mean our reputation, and after that it's your mind, right? Your mindset, your feelings on things, and how you react to things. That's about the only two things I think you really control, absolutely control. Mm-hmm. And what else do you really control? Like, if you think about those two things, do you really control more than that? You can control your reputation, mm-hmm. right? By the things that you do and the choices that you make, and you can control your mind. But really, what else is it after that? So, from a legacy perspective, right? I want my children to remember where they come from, but to really have the opportunity to build a better life for themselves and other people. Because change is necessary, and that you don't have to stay where you are. And I really want young people. I want this generation of young people to be stronger, to be more mentally tough, and to be more resilient, because we are struggling. I think, as a country, as people, as a world, I think we're struggling with our youth, and I really want our young people to be able to face their problems, right? Face the storm, and not quit and not give up, and be able to make those kinds of decisions. I really want spaces for that, but I really want that to be the new norm. Get back to a point where we are owning everything, and we're not blaming everybody else for where we're at.
All right. 100%. What do you think it is? What do you think we are struggling at such a scale?
Well, honestly, I don't think it was very intentional at all. I think it was a big, Americans. We'll just talk about America for a minute. I think Americans got scared, 70s, 80s, 90s with their children, and that's because there was an increase in major cities and an increase in crime. Right? Like, you don't tell, like, when did it stop? When did we stop telling our kids to come home when the street lights come on? Right?
Yeah.
Right? When did we stop that?
I was thinking about that the other day. Back in the 70s and 80s was actually, in terms of serial killers, that was when it was going on the most.
Exactly. And that's when it stopped. That's exactly when it stopped.
Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, was all in the 70s.
Yeah. So what happened is there was a shift, to being more protective, more, quote unquote, supportive, involved parents, and there were some, secondary, tertiary effects of that shift, and one of those is the level of involvement in our children's lives. And we've never before in the history of mankind have we been this involved in our children's lives, and never before in the history of mankind have we had this much mental illness in our children's lives. Yeah. And that's that's because, like, something happens at school, we don't say, well, what'd you do to solve the problem? If something happens to you, go find a teacher. Go get help. Okay, there's not even an opportunity to have a conversation and say, I don't like what you're doing to me. Like, I need you to stop. No, it's, you don't even react. You just go get the teacher for help. And, what you get, there's a breakdown of the ability to engage and solve problems and conversate and talk, right? And be able to tell other people that I don't like what you're doing, right? Without it becoming this huge fight. And we want that. We want everybody to avoid that. So, we had this shift in the way we parent, and it's not all bad, right? We just have to, I think, be mindful of what we're doing, because we're not enabling our children to solve their own problems. And it's even happened, systemically in our toys, like Legos. Remember back in the day, you just drop a big bucket of Legos and you built a house.
Yeah.
Now you've got this massive instruction booklet, right? And it's step by step. And now you've got some brilliant children who can follow the plan. But if you just dumped a bucket of Legos, they're probably not going to get too creative and build anything right now.
Right.
And that's that's a really tough thing to overcome.
Yeah. To add on to that, just a little more, I feel like culturally, it's almost like we're creating this safety umbrella, this sort of comfort zone, and I will dare to say that comfort is a lesser degree of pleasure. It's probably more dangerous, because because it's so subtle, and you could spend your entire life in that zone and not even realize it.
Yeah.
At least with pleasure, you can spiral out of control and end up in a rock bottom situation where you might be shook out of,
Yeah.
into consciousness to realize that there needs to be a shift and a change. But in the comfort zone, you're doomed because you can cruise on that zone for forever.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and that's literally what we're doing with our children today. And it's funny. I was thinking back the other day, like in 90s, 2000s, like every kid had a cast on.
Yeah.
Like something was broken. And you don't see that anymore. It's very rare. And it's because we're not allowing our children to do dangerous things safely.
Yeah.
We have to allow that, right? And there's a number of things, but I think I really do think that we are way overprotective, and we're not giving them opportunities to solve their own problems.
Yeah.
Right? We are jumping in to save the day, whether it's as a parent unit or a school unit, right? There's so many regulations, like like teachers can't get involved, and I like, even when I was in school in Chicago, we would skip school to go watch the Cubs game. $6 bleacher seats if you could. We were scouring. Looking for change everywhere just to grab a bleacher seat. And we were skipping school, but you were in trouble when your teacher was there too,
Yeah.
And they were like, all right, you don't say nothing, I won't say nothing, and we'll see you later at school,
Yeah.
But, we're just not doing, those things aren't happening anymore. Everything has got to be so perfect and so regulated, and it's all, and I get it, we have such a huge focus on mental health. But if we instead focused on building strong, resilient minds with a non-cognitive base, right? We need a base of non-cognitive skills, and we're not doing that. And this comes back to, you can get all A's in school and still flunk life because you don't know how to talk to people and solve your own problems.
Right. No, 100%. It's almost like we lost our ability of living in crisis, and you've seen that through COVID and all this. People don't know what to do in a crisis anymore. It's like this panic because they've been so accustomed to living a comfort life that that survival instinct just doesn't kick in like it should, right? It's like now it's a herd of cows running away from the storm.
Absolutely. And it's, where can I go to find help instead of what can I do to solve this problem? And that's a huge difference.
So I feel like kids need to feel leadership at some point. In sports, you know what I mean? Because I remember when I first put my daughter in soccer, she was really good until she got the ball. And when she got the ball, she felt the pressure because everyone's coming for her now.
Yeah.
And I remember her being scared of the ball. And I used to tell her, like, hey, don't be scared. Just run with it as fast as you can. If someone takes it, they take it. It's fine.
Take your shot.
Take your shot.
Take your shot.
Do something with it. Just try it. Yeah, that's it. Because that's what's really important when it comes to children, I think. And I'm, we're all flawed, right? I've got my mistakes, and my children are savage too, like they're boys, right? That's what they do. But I think we need to focus on efforts. We praise effort instead of outcomes.
Yeah.
Right? So don't focus on the outcome as much. Focus on how much effort that they're putting into whatever it is that they're doing. And because that really results in their desire to do and more and do different and not be afraid.
Yeah.
Right? And because effort, I think, is more important. And then the outcomes will follow. Right?
Yeah.
They will.
That's something I need to hear because, shoot, I'm always putting in a lot of effort, but like the outcome with every video is different, you know? And that's something good to hear because it's true, man. Consistency.
That's it. Yeah. Focus on the level of effort you're putting out there, and wait. The outcomes will follow.
I had a question when we were talking about the book. what was the time frame of when you started the book to when you finished it?
Yeah, so I met Johnny Blue Hands in 2017.
Okay.
And I wrote like the introduction and the outline and sort of, trying to develop the story in 17. And then, things got busy, right? I'm starting a new life in Kansas City and, married my wife, having babies, right? Like life starts lifing real quick, and so, but, I got serious again and put pen to pad and published in it would have been late 22, early 23.
Okay.
And that was because of the support of my wife, and and I mean, this was 4 a.m. right? We work all day, come home, take care of the kids, put everybody to bed. I take a power nap. I get up at 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then I'm writing until 2, 3, 4 in the morning.
Shout out to the wife. What's her name?
Nayeli.
Yeah, shout out to the wife.
Yeah,
you guys have a powerhouse together.
She's unbelievably, and I don't know where she gets the energy, because it's around the clock. The amount of things that we're doing together, the amount of things that she does and manages, and it's just, I'm in awe every day, every day, and I hope she listens to this whole episode. I know she will, and then she'll, because she really is gangster with it.
Yeah.
I mean, really is gangster with it.
She's from Chihuahua too, bro.
Yeah.
She's paisana, paisana of yours.
What part of Chihuahua?
Sure.
But that actually brings us to the Cigar Lounge part of your story, which is currently where you're at. You're located at
we're on the far side, the north west side of Westport, but technically
Westport,
technically it's the West 39th Street neighborhood. It's called the West 39th Street District.
And this is an initiative that you started with your wife, right?
Yeah. And the reason, so I love cigars. I've been smoking cigars for a long time. Like I said, I started to find my peace in being able to slow down. This is how I listen. Right, because when I sit down to smoke a cigar, I'm sitting down to have an executive session with my soul. That's the idea: have a conversation, listen to myself, listen to other people. And we have a really nice home office that we work from, my wife and I, for all the different things that we do. But our children getting older, and they kept finding us. I mean, just totally, dropping nukes in our home, like just totally interrupting the day, which is fine. That's what children do. So we couldn't necessarily, work from there anymore. So we were on the verge of buying another property, a rental property, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, why don't we do something different and build an office? And we really wanted, a space that was elevated from both an experience perspective, but a people perspective, and one that we love, that we can work from. So we built it as an office, and we use that as the framework to build out the cigar and jazz lounge section of it.
Yeah. Which, if you haven't been, it's an amazing space. I really like what you guys done with it. I'm a big fan. You guys have all kinds of events there. Can you tell us a little bit about what's going on at the at Sherri's lounge?
Yeah, so we're located, like I said, West 39th Street District. So technically, Genesee Street and 39th, and we are a luxury cigar and jazz lounge. The space is meant to be a lounge, not a sports bar. So, we've got a 100-inch TV in there, but we don't turn it on. And that's especially when there's live music, right? We're trying to honor the artists.
Jazz, right?
Yeah. So we do a lot. So that's the thing, right? We are a membership-based organization. So, our members are the base. They're the backbone of the space. And they get private lockers, and they have 24-hour access, and they really are the family unit of the space. But we do live music Wednesday through Saturday every week. We do have some Sundays and some Mondays, and that's one of the things. We started out with just music on a Friday and a Saturday, but we've increased that. As we grow, we'll continue to increase. Ideally, someday we're 7 days a week. So first Monday of the month we do a Marley Monday set, which is a reggae set. It's a lot of fun. And then
On which days?
the first Monday.
Okay, first
of
Monday
every month. Yeah.
Okay,
We
okay.
do a live reggae set. We call it Marley Mondays. It's a really cool day.
Nice,
Yep.
nice. Yeah.
And then we do some Sundays. So like this coming Sunday, we're doing a day party, 1 to 4,
Okay.
with Stranded in the City band. They're a local legendary band that just really, really great music. Everything from funk, blues, jazz, and even Spanish.
Nice.
So yeah, and we like to provide a space that people can enjoy the cigar culture, which is a very unique culture, but also, talk with each other, right? Businesses are formed in this lounge. Deals are made. One of our members just struck his first, $1 million deal, and he did it at the lounge. And that's the whole idea.
Wow.
And so we really love providing that opportunity for people to connect, that like-minded, because every walk of life comes in there.
Are these jazz artists local or?
Oh yeah.
How do you know Danny Cox?
I don't.
You don't know Danny Cox?
Apparently, I need to. Yeah.
He's her son's grandpa on his dad's
okay.
side. He was a local jazz singer. He did the Grass Pad commercial.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
No.
You need to look him up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out.
Yeah. We do a lot of local artists. That's largely,
Maybe we could connect them.
Yeah,
You know?
it'd be
Hey.
cool. Yeah, pull them up because we do say yes.
He passed away last year.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear
man, I'm
that.
sorry to hear
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, my condolences.
Yeah.
And I just so you got the cigar bar. Recently, you did also a festival, right?
Yeah.
You hosted,
Yeah.
That's not that long ago.
No, just end of May. We host the Kansas City Cigar and Jazz Festival. We had 10 different bands, and we partnered with the Hispanic Economic Development Commission out of Kansas City here.
Yeah.
And they have a standing event that they were doing regularly called Friday Night Fights under the bridge to combat gun violence and youth gun violence. And so we partnered with them because we wanted to provide an exceptional experience for the cigar community. So that was a massive 2-day event. That was a lot of fun. We had, like I said, 10 different bands, and then Saturday night we did 4 boxing matches. The Leo Moreno Boxing Club out of Kansas City here.
Yeah.
Fantastic team there with the fighters pulling it together. And then, shout out to Pedro and Mari for partnering with us. And then we partnered with Will out of Classic Blends. He's a cigar lounge in North Kansas City. Exceptional cigar lounge, exceptional space, and exceptional people, like that whole crew. And everybody in the city for the most part are all the different lounges are just fabulous around here. So yeah, we like to do and think big, right? Think big, do big, and execute. So we're always doing some sort of big event, right? Like the festival.
Yeah. You guys seem to be very passionate about what you're doing here, because you don't just have a cigar lounge. I mean, you guys are rolling your own cigars. You got some of your own brand, which I'm smoking here right now. That's Eterna Madre, right? Your wife was actually telling me that she took a course in Cuba for 30 days where she actually learned how to roll the cigars herself. That's
She's
insane.
been doing most of the rolling right now. She loves it. She's very passionate about it. But we also like to honor, right? We like to honor people, the people that shaped our lives, right? So this is, this particular cigar that I'm smoking and you're smoking is to honor our mothers, right? And that's,
Madre, I love that.
Exactly. The people
What about Toro?
Well, that's actually a size. That's a Vitola.
Oh, okay.
That's what they call it.
I thought it meant that I was the bull.
I mean, that can work too, Yeah, that
we
can
need
work
one that's
too.
called the Buffalo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's amazing, man. I actually became, just sort of attached to the culture of cigars post sobriety. Because that's actually the only social lubricant I have, and you're right. It does provide that I don't know, some sort of like a space and intimacy to have conversations. I'm actually part of this Bible study group called Holy Smokes. We meet
Yeah.
at cigar bars and study
Yeah.
the Word. Actually, we had a couple of fellas here last weekend from
Jonathan and Steve.
and shout out Jonathan and Steve. And you know, I find myself at cigar bars, just meeting with friends, or doing Bible studies, or anytime I had to meet with somebody for a business type of deal. Cigar bars is my go-to, and Sherry's is
Yeah.
one that I recently became, known known of, and I actually was Memorial Day weekend because you guys were the only ones that were open, and you had a deal that day, and I was looking for a cigar, and I came to your lounge that day, and I was like, wow, this is the spot. I was like, I'm definitely
Yeah.
gonna be coming up here. So
Yeah, one of the things that we love, the cigar culture and the cigar smoking community, like I said, every walk of life, doesn't matter who you are, how you put your pants on, you sit down at the table, and you're smoking a cigar, and you can have that conversation, woman to woman, man to man. And one of the things about our space that we love, we really are a grown folks space.
Yeah.
It's very rare that we get, folks in there that are under 30 years old. Most days under 35 we don't see.
I guess I'm a grown folk now.
Yeah. And there's some fantastic conversations, and the space is actually used for multiple podcasts and shows that unfold in there. So there's a weekly show every Wednesday that's a live production. And there's another podcast on Tuesdays, like the first Tuesday of the month. These guys come in, so there's a space that people use. But I do like to say that when young people do come into our space, it's every bit of opportunity for them to see what right looks like, right? In terms of grown people having grown conversations and solving problems together, despite any differences that they may have ideologically, politically, right? In fact, one of the things we did this year, last year, we were the only cigar lounge to host a presidential election watch party. It was very, controversial.
It can be, yeah.
And it's interesting because what preceded that, we hosted debates and talks by the Jackson County prosecutorial candidates.
Yeah.
So Tracy Chappell and Melissa Johnson were running for the Jackson County prosecutor, and so one's Democrat, one's Republican, and they both came in and met with the crowds and talked with people, right? But when we did the watch party, a lot of people said, "Really? You sure you want to do that?" And I said, "Look, of any culture that exists, it's a cigar culture that can sit down and have a real conversation about differences. And at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen." I told these people, what's going to happen is they're going to look at the TV, they're going to say, well, that happened. And then they're going to wake up the next day and do the best they can to do right by their families. That's it.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. And we hosted that watch party, and there wasn't a single argument. There wasn't a single fight, despite, all the differences in the room, because there were differences. And some of them were palpable, but we again, the space is meant for people to engage in conversation without destroying relationships.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's, how do you, that's something that I think we've lost, right? Like, you can have a difference, and all you have to say is, well, I disagree with you, and here's why.
Yeah.
Right. And then convince me, or I convince you. We go back and forth, and that's what happens in the cigar culture. We have real conversations, and we're not, it's not, well, fuck you forever. I'm never talking to you again.
Yeah.
So that's what happens.
Unfriend you for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's what happens. Instead of just having a conversation. So so we're always doing something that's breaking the mold, and really fun. We're gonna do what we call shout out to John. He's our artist, our poet in residence, because we do a lot of poetry. He's actually up for Kansas City People Choice Award, top spoken word artist.
Nice.
So we're hopefully he wins that award. But he gave us the idea, because we've been having some fun with some different games. But we're gonna do a Sherry Royale, like a big casino style party, black tie.
Yeah.
Just have a lot of fun. And we're talking. We're not talking $100, $500 buy-in. We're talking about money. We're talking about, cigars, right? We're just talking about having a good time, and just something fun. That's an experience for people. It give people a reason to get together under good circumstances.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, man. I do. You guys are doing it right there. There's a lot of different things that you're hosting that are different than what I've seen. I went into your bathroom, man, and I was like, man, you should see his bathroom. He's got a shoe shiner in there, some gums, some, lotion,
mouthwash,
yeah,
everything.
It's the real experience. I'm like, I never seen a bathroom like this.
You see, that's the whole idea, though, right? Because you want people to come in and enjoy, but the fact of the matter is, most people that are in there are going to go somewhere else, have another conversation or dinner or a meeting, and they can leave my space and be ready for that. And, maybe they don't want the lingering cigar smoke on their breath. Maybe they don't, and funny story, I had a Kansas City woman, middle-aged, she came in for some sort of date night she was having. And she is the cigar smoker. So this gentleman from Oklahoma, older gentleman, they were on their first date, and he had drove all the way to Kansas City to, they've been talking for a long time, and like I said, she was the cigar smoker. Well, to be considerate, he tried something small, something mild, just a quick entry smoke so he could sort of blend in. And so he comes up to me, and again, this is now he was probably 60-something years old. And he says, I really want to kiss her, but I don't have, I don't want to kiss her with the cigar smoke out my mouth. I said, well, let me take you to the bathroom now. I'll take care of you. You got everything you need, I mean, and it saved this guy's life. Like, he was so happy after that. Yeah, he's so happy, but that's why, those kinds of amenities are important when you want to, structure a space that is executive level, that people can conversate and they can go somewhere else, and not feel like they're going to stand out or provide someone else a bad experience because they might have some smoke on their breath.
It's almost like you're not just selling cigars, you're offering an experience, and I can totally see that when you step into that place.
That's exactly right. It's totally an experience.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. One of the things I wanted to ask you, because everything that you're doing with your businesses, with your book and leadership, company that you have, who has been the most influential in terms of mentors, and what have they taught you?
So, we spent a little bit of time talking about Yael and Brian Galarza. So those two are the foundational mentors that absolutely shaped my life. My moral compass, who I am as a man, what the values that I believe in. That's definitely, Brian and Yael. There's some others out there like Colonel Kevasek. He is we'll say, like the grandfather I never had. I mean, this guy, you want to talk about drive, and I mean, at the time when I first met him, he was probably 55, 60 and still knocking out 20 pull-ups and, just getting after it. But he had a sense of drive to be creative. He had such a creative mind in terms of existing at an intersection, and that by that I mean looking at things that don't necessarily go together and then creating opportunities from that. And he really did teach me that that thought process of looking at things and how to connect and how to not just think outside the box but create a whole new box.
Interesting.
Yeah. And and in this day and age, where I exist today, the single most important influential figure that I have is my wife, and that is because she has she has a level of passion and purpose, whether it's, has to do with our children or it has to do with business. And the reason what's really great about her is that she doesn't say no to ideas, right? We look at something and we try to war game it. And because all right, great. Not every idea is a good idea, but then, quantity of ideas leads to quality ideas, right? You have to, do those kinds of things. And she's very much the motivation behind doing all of the big things that we've been doing.
Wow.
Because not only is the support there for us together to work together with, the children and going back and forth, but when it comes to doing something that's way outside the box, right? And I'll talk about the Medici effect in a moment. That's her wheel space. I mean, she is on it and is super excited when it comes to doing new things, which is really important. You got to have that, because that motivates me, then me, as motivated person that motivates her, and then we just kind of feed off each other. And sometimes it's hard, and sometimes we look at each other and we're like, well, shit, that happened. Well, let's let's go back and do it. Let's do something else that's really crazy and outrageous, And that's just what it is. But she's got that mindset. She's got that entrepreneurial mindset, and that's what if you've never read the book, it's called The Medici Effect. It's a really cool book, and she really reminds me of the concepts that are based out of that book. The Medici Effect is really simple. Franz Johansson, I believe, is the author. Outstanding book. If you haven't read
I'll
it,
have to check it out.
pick it up, everybody. Pick it up, read it. And the Medici family, out of the Renaissance era, they were bankers. And they said yes to the unordinary, right? They said yes when all other banks were saying no to people, when people were having crazy ideas to do things. And by saying yes, that resulted in the Renaissance era. It resulted in the modern age that we live in today.
Wow.
And, the basic premise of the book is that, we know everything, for the most part, right? I'm exaggerating, but we know everything there is to know about, let's say, math, right? We, at least as it exists today, we know everything there is to know. We pretty much know everything there is to know about the body. We pretty much know everything there is to know about, carpentry and wood and so forth. So, the idea behind the Medici effect is that you live at the intersection of disciplines. If you exist at the intersection of disciplines, you'll be able to identify new connections and new paths and new ways forward that don't usually go together. And that's the creative process that most business owners and entrepreneurs and creatives go through. It's that generation of ideas, however outlandish and wild, right? It's the generation of ideas, and that quantity leads to quality, and then you're responsible for execution. So pretty neat. But that's those are the figures that have probably shaped me over the last 20 years. Those people.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I really can appreciate that, honestly, especially, when it comes to creation, because it's necessary. You got to have that. You got to have that, man. Let me ask you something about your mentors, though, especially, and this is me personally, because I feel like I haven't had that mentorship, and I don't know if these mentors presented themselves in your life, or if you sought them out, like if you looked for them. I've always kind of grown from the point of view of having to teach, having to learn something so that I can show. But I don't know if I just haven't really looked for mentors, or haven't been humbled enough to say, man, I don't know it. I need some help with this. I don't have the answer, because I want to continue to grow. But I don't even know where to begin to look for mentorship.
Yeah. And, most of my mentors have landed in my life, and I've listened. Like I said earlier, right? You got to listen. You got to jump through that sliding door, and then ask. You've got to have that ask, right? It sort of becomes that relationship, and then you have to nurture that relationship, right? That's and respect and honor.
Because it's ongoing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to this day, I probably talk with G weekly, if not every other day sometimes, right? And I'm really looking forward to seeing Colonel Kebasek next week when I head up north. And, Yael and I talk, we try to talk monthly. It's really tough sometimes how busy she is with her business and how busy we are. But yeah, you have to listen, right? And then by that, I mean, look beyond that, what's right in front of you, and just, sort of like, wow, this is a really interesting person that I may be able to learn from and grow from. And then you have to ask those questions. So, and I've done it, and even in other organizations that I've worked for, I look at somebody and I simply say, would you mind having lunch with me today? I'd really love to pick your brain and learn from you. How did you do what you did to get to where you are? And you just have to ask. And some people say no, but most are going to say yes, right? Most are going to say yes, because you have to be intentional about that, because you don't know what you don't know. And I really do think we all need at least one mentor, and we need at least one mentee. You should be mentoring someone right now. If you're not mentoring someone right now, you're wrong.
Yeah,
you're wrong.
Well, yeah.
And so
like paying it forward.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Somebody somewhere could use your knowledge, your experience, and you have to be intentional though. You absolutely do.
What sort of things do you lean in to your mentors for? Like what, do you have some examples that you can share?
Yeah. It depends on the kind of relationship you have, right? Because coaching and mentoring are different, very different. And, mentors, I seek for their real opinions and, advice, and even just bouncing ideas off of, or bouncing thoughts off of. But it ultimately it becomes a support relationship for what it is that you're trying to accomplish. And, what a real good mentor, will help you do is help you find the path that you need to be on, or help you find, a way to, various solutions and things of that nature. They don't, mentors don't tell you go and do this. They don't tell you should do that, right? Mentors have a conversation with you to help you dial in, where you're at in life. Is this really what makes your heart sing? Is this really, where you want to be? And then, and they're going to be able to tell you, like, straight up, well, this, and they ask questions. Are you sure this is going to be the right answer for your family right now? Have you, and they're asking questions. Have you thought about how this might impact your extended family? Like, what happens when you move? Who else that you're not thinking about is going to get hurt? What happens if you take this job or don't take this job? Is somebody else going to, get better from this? And it's a lot of that back and forth, and that's what I look for. And I look for, I look to listen to where they're at in their life, based on the experiences that they've had and what opinions they have of certain things unfolding in the world, or, things that are unfolding in organizations that we're both passionate about, because I trust them and I love them and I respect their opinions. And so I'm always just wondering, even if I've got nothing to ask them, it's just, where are you at in life right now? Like, what's going on with you? And that's it. And that gives me a sense of, fulfillment, because, they are able to give me some piece of information that may or may not be helpful to what's going on in my head, but at least it continues the connection, it's nurturing the relationship, and it lays the groundwork for future conversations. But you really do have to be intentional. You got to go out and find one if you don't have a mentor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It seems like an area that I need to work on for sure. Especially as it relates to like entrepreneurship, because I've been on this quest, I feel, for a long time. And this, I've always pursued a career, and I just always kind of built around that, climbing the corporate ladder, and now I'm exposing myself to other stuff, that are more risky, and that has been difficult because I haven't had that example in our family line and whatnot, and so you've had a trajectory where you started in the military, followed a career path, also maybe even some corporate work, but then now you're here where you're actually doing more of your own business and initiatives, right?
Yeah.
How do you go from a career to that?
Very carefully and with a smile on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the switch is all about your risk posture. When, we talk about my wife, that's a conversation we have often, is about risk. Like, what are we willing to lose? And what are we not willing to lose? And when we first started some of these ventures, the conversation was, well, how much money do we need to have to survive if everything goes wrong? Do we need 1 year of survivability? Right? Do we need 6 months? Do we need 18 months of survivability so we can bounce back and recover? And as your risk posture fluctuates, right, you're able to, make more decisions and different decisions and see what those outcomes are. So, we started with 18 months and said, okay, we feel really good about how this is going. So maybe we can do with just a year. So then we had 6 months of money that we can now use to invest and grow. And eventually it's like, okay, well, we feel really good. Maybe we just need 6 months of survivability. So now we've got 6 months of money that was in the bank that now we can use that to take another step.
Yeah.
And okay, what are we willing to lose that if we invest it right now and try to grow our space and try to grow our brand and so forth. And so, you have to, it comes back to risk. It comes back to you leaving your comfort zone and finding, again, a mentor that's going to play not just your yes man, but devil's advocate. Right.
So it sounds like you're mitigating the self-doubt through planning.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you're planning and just sort of, which brings me back to your cancer experience, right?
Yeah.
When and we can maybe kind of start moving in that direction. When you're taking this 1,000-mile hike, and the preparation that it went towards it. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I love my cigars, but I am a cancer survivor. I didn't have lung cancer, but I am a cancer survivor. And
what type of cancer?
I had advanced stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a blood cancer. And I actually had a nodular sclerosis subtype. That means that, I had a tumor that was actually twice the size of my fist, but when, it shrunk, so now it's only about the size of one fist. But nodular sclerosis means that the cancer cells die, but the mass remains. So, that experience is really what began the shift in my headspace to doing different. Right, doing different. And, I was on that cancer journey for 2 years or so, 2.5 years, and I did every kind of chemotherapy there was. The initial chemo was ABVD, they called it, adriamycin, bleomycin, vinblastine, and some kind of doxycarbine. I can't remember the last name of that one. And that didn't work, right? That didn't work. So we ended up trying experimental chemo called brentuximab, which at the time wasn't FDA approved. So that was a fun conversation with everybody and money and whatnot, because insurance doesn't want to pay for stuff that's not FDA approved. And the brentuximab wasn't actually meant to cure me. The brentuximab was meant to put me in a stable enough position to have a stem cell transplant. And so you know, it was sort of a preparatory chemo to get to a high dose chemo to get to a stem cell transplant, and sort of hit a reset button on my immune system. So I did that, and you know, I spent 3 weeks in the hospital doing the stem cell transplant. And they really, you know, what they do is they give you this high dose chemo. And well, first actually you go through a process called leukapheresis, and they basically drain the blood from your body and they filter out the good stem cells that you have, and then they basically concentrate that and make sure that they're cancer free. You know, the number one thing you can't, you know, one's probably the most painful experience is when they take your bone marrow, because you can't numb bone.
Yeah.
And you're awake. You can't take drugs. You know, you can't take meds. You know, you can't. You know, you can't do anything.
Yeah. Hold on. Let me fix that real quick.
And so, they. You want me to continue or? I mean, I pause. Okay. So yeah, they. You know, it's crunchy, man. Like they take it all out of you. You know, and you feel it. You feel every bit of it. So then after leukapheresis, man, they give you this high dose chemo, which brings your white blood cell count to 0. That means you have 0 immune system. They literally erased every vaccination and you know, immune system fighting material I have. They erased it completely, and that's why I had to live in this bubble. Nobody could visit me. Nobody could come see me. I couldn't be around young people, couldn't be around animals.
For how long?
You know, so 3 weeks in the hospital, but then...
What was the reason they isolated you? I missed that.
Because the initial step of the stem cell transplant is they kill your immune system. So the smallest bug, the smallest bug would kill you.
So you had to be sterile pretty much.
Yeah. And so, you know, and then they re-inject your stem cells, which is... you know, that was probably one of the more harrowing parts, because I remember signing this document, and it says it plain as day. All right, it says, you know, at this point we will re-inject your stem cells. If your body does not accept the stem cells, you will most likely die. It was just like that. Sign here, you know, and I was thinking to myself, like, damn, all right, well, I guess here we go. Yeah. You know, and so what
was the percentage of success on that, or like, did you have any kind of idea?
So my initial, you know, the prognosis rates are pretty high depending on, you know, your age, you know, your weight, you know, a number of different factors, other health problems, and any other comorbidity problems you might have had. And so mine was like pretty high. It was like 70-80%. Like it was going to work out just fine. But I was always the 1%er. Like there's always some issue happening, you know, that was somehow I was going to have to suffer from this. And this is part of the timeline of my life. Right. And so, you know, okay, so we do the stem cell transplant, and then I have to go sit in recovery, which the local fire department, they allowed me to use the second floor of one of their substations that wasn't being used, and they sterilized it, boxed me in, and I lived up there for a month. Wow. And so, but during this time, I became increasingly lost. And I say that because, you know, I had built, you know, was beginning to build a really great career in the military, and everything was going very well. I had just come out of Ranger School. And so I was in the best shape of my life. I was doing all kinds of fun things, great things. I was helping people, you know, and then wham, you know, I just get smacked in the face with this out of nowhere cancer.
And you had gotten accepted into flight school
also
as well, too.
Man, that's a shit show too. Yeah. Because, you know,
did you have symptoms or?
I had some symptoms. And it's funny because you look back now, the earliest symptom that I had was some shoulder pain in my left shoulder, as my arm was going numb, really very badly numb, and it was in
just like randomly. Or?
Yeah, and the pain was excruciating. So I went to see occupational therapists, physical therapists, you know, all this stuff.
Did it feel muscular?
at the time it felt both muscular and skeletal.
Okay.
And and then but they couldn't figure, nothing was working. So but it turns out that there was a tumor growing in my neck that was pinching a nerve. Right? And so it's like, who thinks shoulder pain cancer? Nobody. Right now, I tell you, I fart backwards, I'm getting checked out, It's like something's going on, you know what I mean? It's
I feel you.
We got to get checked out because it ain't, something ain't right.
Yeah.
But yeah, over a course of like 6 months, like I found myself walking up a hill and I'm like way out of breath. I should not be out of breath. Like I'm struggling, and yeah, my mentor, actually Colonel Kebasek, is the one who was like, dude, it's time. Like, take your ass in to get checked out. Like, let's go. And yeah, sure as shit, advanced stage 3. So,
Wow.
and all of this, it just was reshaping my existence because I had this plan,
Everything had been,
I had this plan and I had this path I was on, and it was now ripped away from me, very, very suddenly and shockingly, right? So after the stem cell transplant, I had to get radiation therapy, which was like the nail in the coffin. And radiation is much different from chemo. And you get this, it's literally like, your lung has these calipers in them that, help circulate and cycle the air and the O2 and all that stuff. And it's like throwing your lung on a frying pan, right? So I'm laying there and this machine is just zapping me, right? And the illness, the nausea, all that stuff is instant. But you get up and you go look in the mirror and I got this burn mark on me, Okay. So I turn around and I look on my back. I have the same burn mark. It's cooking you all the way through.
Wow.
All the way through. Like the exact same shape of the burn for the radiation area on my chest was on my back.
Wow.
It was wild. And I was like, yeah, okay, so this is going to be a thing. So I did that for 3 months. And okay, doc says, I think you're in remission. So we trusted it. Right. And this was after like the first 2 times I was supposed to be in remission. Like I was supposed to be in remission after the first 6 months of this treatment. Didn't work. Next 6 months treatment didn't work. Now we're 2 years into this, and finally radiation nailed the coffin shut. So, I was everywhere. I was lost. I was really just out of my headspace, was unfocused, and it brought me back to doing something different, doing something big, but also doing something celebratory, because I was getting my strength back. And so a year after my, spending, basically almost 8 weeks in isolation, I said, I will go and celebrate and spend a month and a half outside. And I needed time in my head. I needed time with my soul. And I needed to put things behind me, literally and figuratively, one step at a time. So I decided to plan this hike and do the Ice Age Trail, which is basically 1,000 miles across the state of Wisconsin. And I planned it very meticulously. Again, no plan survives first contact, but it helps, right? Yeah. And so, I prepackaged, I had to count my calories and how much I was going to carry, and it turns out macadamia nuts were the best thing to carry because, one macadamia nut was like 500 calories,
Wow.
So, from a weight to calorie ratio, what do you want to do to be successful out there? And I sent packages I called all kinds of random places and just said, hey, I'm going to be passing through your area in like 3 weeks. Can I send a package to you for resupply? And I was sending my resupply packages out to everybody. And I read a book. It's called No Excuse Leadership by Brace Barber. And that book is an amazing book. He founded, he founded a company called Orion Talent, which is what brought me to Kansas City in the first place. And so, that hiking experience, that backpacking experience was the catalyst for major change because it was different. It allowed me to think. It allowed me to put my plans together, right? It allowed me to
build your vision.
Yeah, rebuild. Again, it really comes back to that doing different, doing different, do something different that's going to create a new opportunity for you. So, you know, had I not done that, and I wouldn't have, you know, my children, I wouldn't have my wife, you know. So, you know, again, you trust the timeline of your life, but you have to be intentional about doing things that are going to create new opportunities for you.
This is after staring death in the face, basically, because you didn't know how that treatment was going to go. You said that after you signed that, I mean, it's pretty much saying you could probably just check out right here.
Yeah, it could have been that way. And I was ready, you know. I mean, you have to be ready. And so when you face your mortality, you know, things change for you real quick.
Yeah, things get real.
You know, I learned a lot of lessons, and some very important ones. And, you know, one of those we talked about a little bit about the kinds of people that you allow in your life. And really, you know, the first lesson that I learned, though, was, you know, really like who's people, you know, whose shit I'm willing to eat and whose shit I'm not willing to eat. Because it's like, I ain't got time for your shit, you know, because the clock becomes very important all of a sudden. Because the time is precious, and you don't get it back. And so you think about your time, and you think about what you're spending and who you're spending it with, and that really helps you understand the kind of people that are in your life and who you need to push out and who you need to pull in.
Right.
You know?
That reminds me of George. George's a friend of mine who passed away a few years ago, and I had suspicion that he was sick, but he wouldn't let anyone know if anything was going on. And the last 6 months of his life felt very much like that. And I was lucky to be one of the last people he kept around. But it was an intense 6 months of me and him clashing heads and having really deep. One of the things I used to be like, bro, stop being, life is not that serious. But I did not know, you know, what he was going through. And now listening to you say that, reminds me of
Yeah, because you know things change. I mean, the image of who you are, and how you look at life and how you look at people, right? And like I said, I mean, I those are the lessons that, you know, the clock became way more important than usual. But then that translates into, I think, people, who's in your life and who's not. Where are you spending your time?
How you're spending your time. Yeah.
But then finally, and we touched on this a little bit, you know, those two lessons kind of give me the third lesson, which is, you know, this ownership of your mind and your circumstance. And this is about me enjoying my day. And that, and by that, I mean, no one's allowed to ruin my day except me. No one. I don't care who you are. Not even my wife. You know, like, and sometimes she gets mad because she's mad, and she's like, "How come you're not mad?" I'm like, I can't. I'm sorry. I got, you know. And sometimes, you know, but that's the philosophy, and that's why, you know, I everywhere I look, everywhere I go, it's like you do not have the power to ruin my day. I'm sorry. You have yourself a good one, my man.
Right. 100%.
Like, carry on.
I can respect that philosophy, and I'm definitely gonna learn from that. How long did it take you to do this 1,000-mile hike?
So it's funny. I started out.
That's a real hike?
Oh,
yeah,
That's a real hike?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a...
I brought a copy of the book for you, man.
Yeah, it's not a... Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Holy...
Yeah, it's 1,000 miles. That's his post-cancer, like coming out, you know, after beating cancer. So that's...
I hurt my knees just thinking about
that. Yeah.
Well, I was a younger man then. Despite the cancer, I was still in better shape, you know. But I started out, you know, so gung-ho, like, I was thinking, man, I could do 30 miles a day. That's a lot of miles, you know. The thing about backpacking, it's, especially depending on the trail you're on, we have what's called hardball, which is that's the name we use for streets. So you have trail and you have hardball. And because the trails don't necessarily connect all the way through, you gotta walk down some hardball for a little while, and then you gotta get back on the trail. So I had targeted, you know, 30 miles a day. And some of them were 24 miles, some of them were 32-mile days. You know, I was moving faster. I could move at about 3.5 miles an hour, 4 miles an hour on trail, but I drops down to like 2.5 miles an hour on hardball because the way the pressure is on your feet, you develop the blisters and stuff way faster. So you're much slower on hardball. So that first day, I did not hit 30 miles. I hit like 26 miles, and I was cooked. So, I had realized even on day one, whoa, why do I need to do 30 miles in a day? Mm-hmm. And why did I put that pressure on me? For what? What was I trying to prove, or was I trying to accomplish? So I reevaluated the entire plan like day one after I was 30 miles away almost from the start point, but I was cooked. And, I realized that I needed, if I was going to do this, that the purpose was for me to really be in my head and really be in my soul. And so I slowed down. I slowed down to 15 to 20 miles a day. And it's a 6-week adventure, man.
Wow.
I think the longest stretch.
That's a month and a half.
Yeah,
bro.
the longest stretch. I think I went about 150 miles without seeing another person. And
sorry to cut you off. Was your wife with you through your cancers?
No, I had met my wife here in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So your wife wasn't with you through this hike either?
No.
Okay. I was wondering, you said a month and a half. I was like, what was she doing for a month?
Yeah. And I didn't carry, I carried some cash on me, but I wasn't like I didn't have my phone on me. I used a GPS locator that basically, it sent an automatic signal to my family, my sister, and actually Colonel Capasat got it too, but it was like, if I stopped moving for more than 2 hours between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., then there was an emergency, right? Because it sent that emergency signal. And a lot of people thought I was homeless. I'd be sitting on the side of the road, just changing my socks, taping up my boots, taping up my feet. People were throwing me money and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not homeless, And then we start telling the story. And if you look at the pictures in the book, you'll see all the people that I met along that journey. It's just really cool, really amazing people. Just the most genuine, down-to-earth people that you can have real conversations with, that were really interested in understanding why somebody would go out there and do that to themselves. And it was life-altering, right? Because that's what helped reignite my spark to make change, to force change, to do something different and create opportunity. I miss it. Yeah. I miss it. Yeah.
No, that's an incredible story. I really appreciate that story because, honestly, that gave you an opportunity to be out there by yourself with your own thoughts and
pushing the limit, pushing the bar.
Yeah. Facing your fear. I can only imagine the kind of like thoughts that you were processing at the time.
Yeah,
your mind was probably going bananas. You know what I mean?
And but the thing about that I enjoyed most was, you make a fire at the end of the night, and that's man's original TV. You want to have a conversation with your soul, right? Put yourself somewhere away from distractions, away from technology, and sit there in front of a fire and just stare, and then let yourself think, like listen to what's coming to mind, and then write. And that's what I did. I journaled quite a bit, and that's how I developed, that chapter of the book, was using those journal notes. It helped to remind me of those details and so forth. But it helped me identify the gaps, the people. Like I wrote lists of motherfuckers that had to leave my life,
Yeah.
I was writing lists like, you're gone, that's gone, you're gone. That's what needed to be done.
It's basically you went through a process of reshaping your entire reality, where you're being intentional about it and thinking, okay, well, this is how I'm going to create it. And these are the people that are still going to be in it.
Yeah, this is my core.
Yeah.
And that's it. And if you're not adding value to my life, like, you were so gone.
Yeah.
You're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very important that we do that.
It's almost like, through plant medicine, you kind of have those feelings during certain experiences. But in his case, it's like, it's a more subtle, longer process, but you still receive.
arrive at the same.
Still
No, I could see that. I mean, everybody arrives at that point in different ways.
The moment of truth. That's what they call it.
Yeah, David Goggins founded at Mile 70. I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins.
Oh, yeah.
He's similar, they're just this experiences that basically take you to the very limit of your being, of your soul, and
guys,
where you can.
You guys quote books, I quote songs.
That's all good, man. That's all good.
Yeah,
The
That's all
guru,
good.
bro. The
That's
moment
all
of
good.
truth.
yeah.
But you know what? It's interesting you say that though, because it makes me think of the different ways that we nurture our different relationships, which is important when it comes to the people in your life. So, for the longest time, my brother and I, we had a challenging relationship. And the only time that we communicated, but we communicated through song.
Yeah.
He'd share a song, I'd share a song. It was a lot easier than trying to say how you felt,
Yeah.
But it was interesting that you said that, because that's what that reminds me of. But again, you still find a way to nurture the relationship of the people that you're keeping in your life,
Yeah.
And it can be crazy. You don't even know how it's going to unfold, but it could be whatever. And again, for us, like, it was just that song. I would share a song.
Wow, that's amazing, man. Honestly, I can't wait to continue to read more of your book. I'm gonna get through it. There's so much to learn there, man. There's so many principles and things. A lot of inspiration, man. Your story,
Thank you.
really does.
Is it on Spotify?
It's on Audible.
It's on Audible.
As an audiobook, it's an ebook as well, available on Amazon and our websites and whatnot. It's available at the lounge too.
You want to show it to the people what it looks like?
Yeah.
Show it to the people.
Let's see if they can. Yeah, there she is. Yeah.
Eyes wide open, learning to suffer.
Yeah.
Jason Sharp, man, dude, that's a read, man. It's a read because it's mostly about the story, and the story is just really incredible.
Yeah.
How much we can endure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I will say, at the end of the book, I do spend a lot of time, because people always ask that question, well, how do I practically apply this? Like, what can I do? And I outline a lot of very specific ways that you can do that practically, whether it's imposing stress, whether it's business, whether it's school, whether you're at camp, whatever the case might be. I give you quite a few different ways for you to impose stress and develop that mindset.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna check that out. That's probably a whole nother episode in itself right there. But Jason, where can people find you? Like, besides Sherri's Cigar Lounge?
Yeah, you can find you can certainly check out our websites. We're at sherryslounge.com. Of course, you can go to my website, Sharp Leader. The book's on Amazon Audible. Our website for the book is called learntosuffer.com. You can't miss it there. And you can find me around town, actually, at various events. So I do a lot of speaking and whatnot. So I think the next engagement is the Global Entrepreneurship Week here in Kansas City.
I've been to that one. Yeah,
I'll be doing a session or two.
That's
there.
an entire week, right?
Yeah.
I've been to that one. That's actually it's a pretty good, and they have various classes throughout.
Yeah.
And what are you going to be teaching there?
So in this case, I'm going to focus on risk and risk planning and talk. From both a practical perspective, but also the human perspective, like managing and developing a risk posture, and then actually doing something about that to achieve your business goals.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. I need to listen to that for sure, man. Honestly, man, we're honored to have you here.
Thank you.
Jason, thank you for making time on a Saturday to be here and to sit with us. I was really looking forward to this, and I'm going to continue to read your book. I'm gonna check you out at the lounge there. It's a new spot that I'm gonna be hitting up, so I'm sure we're gonna be intersecting there. But yeah, man, I think we covered a lot of your story, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it very much. It's a lot of fun coming out here rapping with you guys. Thank you, and certainly hope to see any of your viewers out at the lounge. You guys come and see us, and
for sure.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Ready to send it out or what?
Yeah, man. We did a couple hours.
We did.
Actually, a little bit more than a couple hours. We
Alright.
we did pretty good. It all worked out exactly how it needed to work out. So it came together just like we thought, like we planned, right?
Outstanding. Yeah, outstanding. Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah.
Is there a final thought you'd like to leave before we close out?
You know, I think I wanna reiterate. You know, people really listen to your soul, trust the timeline of your life, but be intentional about owning your outcome. Right? Really look in the mirror and be intentional. Make those decisions. Open your eyes and make a decision. That's what you have to do.
Well, Jason said it himself, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Ricky, you want to sign us out?
Till next time.
All right. Bet. Man, that was good.
All right.
Wow, cool, man. That went pretty smooth. We got to start doing more of that in terms of like the agenda, because this helped us like stay on track. Like that was very helpful.
Oh, what I
like,
sent you? Yeah.
Yeah.